I would ask everyone to stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation is being offered by Reverend Clay Stafford. He is the pastor of the Woodmont Christian Church. He is the guest of Councilmember Todd.
Thank you for having me. I want to share a quote before we have the prayer. This is from a book that a friend gave to me called With Love and Prayers by a guy named Tony Jarvis. It says, before you decide whether you want to be a leader, you have to decide if you want to pay the price of leadership. And leadership is always costly. Above all, it requires character, the ability to cling to a vision, the patience and endurance to persuade others, a thick hide for criticism and unpopularity, a tolerance for anxiety, and a willingness to lose in a good cause. Maybe that resonates with some of you. Would you join me in prayer? Loving God, you have called many individuals in this chamber to be leaders. So teach us what that means. Teach us to be humble, to be gracious, to learn from the past, and to hope for the future. Remind us that leadership in a town like Nashville is not always easy. In fact, there are many times when we get frustrated, when we grow weary, when we get tired. But we pray for the courage and the perseverance to press on and to keep moving forward in the face of great challenges. I give you thanks for each and every person in this room tonight, for their vision, their passion, their commitment to this town, and their willingness to help make Nashville a better place. Pray that you will give them clarity and confidence to make decisions that are in the best interest of our citizens, that they can deliberate openly and honestly with mutual respect for one another. We pray for all in our community, from those who are greatly blessed to those born into poverty who may not know where their next meal will come from. Help us to work together to tear down the walls that divide us. May Nashville continue to be a city where compassion is always evident, where service to others is always important, and where citizens look out for the well-being of one another. Amen. To the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the evening. Is there a motion for the adoption of our minutes from our April 16th meeting? We have a motion and a second. Without objection, the minutes will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages.
Thank you. Tonight, I'd like to recognize Troop 219. The Scoutmaster is Hugh Jackson. They are the guest of Councilmember Gilmore. Will you please stand and be recognized? Before our meeting begins, I would ask everyone in the chamber to find a seat. If you cannot find a seat, you can go to the mezzanine, please. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Had several confirmations on our agenda this evening. First, from the Airport Authority, we had two reappointments of Mr. Rod Essig and Mr. Bobby Jocelyn. The committee voted to approve 7-4-0 against, and I'd like to move their approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
For Mr. Trey Harwell, which would have been a first-time appointment, committee voted to defer 7-4-0 against, and I'd like to move that deferral for one meeting.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
I'd like to withdraw one reappointment, Mr. Don Wolf, for the Electrical Examiners and Appeals Board. For the Fire and Building Code Appeals Board, we had a reappointment of Mr. Eddie Hutton. Committee voted to approve 7-4-0 against. I'd like to move his approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
For the Plumbing Examiners and Appeals Board, reappointment of Mr. Graham Reed. Committee voted 7-4-0 against. I'd like to move his approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
For the Public Library Board this evening, a reappointment of Ms. Lucy Haynes. Committee also voted 7-4-0 against. I'd like to move her approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
And finally, for the Zoning Appeals Board, first-time appointment of Ms. Cynthia Chappell. Committee voted 7-4-0 against. I'd like to move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing. Rod Essick, Bobby Jocelyn, Eddie Hutton, Graham Reed, Lucy Haynes, and Cynthia Chappell. On behalf of the entire Metropolitan Council, I want to thank you so much for your willingness to volunteer many hours and your expertise for our great city. Thank you very much. We are now at bills on public hearing. BL 2013-348 changes 28.58 acres from MULA, CF, and ORI to MUGA, and 53.12 acres from MUIA zoning for various properties in Midtown between I-440 and I-40. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Please come to the lectern and state your name, please.
Vice Mayor, neighbor, members of the council, my name is Tom White. I live at 36 Old Club Court. I represent a number of the property owners that are affected by this bill. Without any person here at a public hearing in opposition, I've never asked to speak to the council. But I think this bill is of such importance that I want to take just a few minutes. I'll stay within the 3 minutes as allocated and appreciate your indulgence. There's some important things about this bill. This bill was approved unanimously by the Planning Commission in an 8-0 vote. The bill has been under study for approximately 2 years. There have been a very significant number of studies, meetings held both by the council lady and by the planning department, and I can represent to you tonight. I've represented, I believe, every one of those meetings. I can think without question that every resident that came, everybody that owned commercial property in the area was unanimously in support of this bill. I don't remember at one meeting that anybody that owned any property in the area affected was not supportive. That goes for residential and commercial. I also want to comment that at some point in the process, an issue was raised as to whether or not there ought to be a mandate for an historical overlay or a UDO overlay. It was vetted thoroughly. The planning department had their expertise. They brought it to a neighborhood meeting. So did the members of the Historic Commission. There was a lengthy presentation. And as was reported in a later meeting by Doug Sloan and Catherine Withers of the planning department, not one property owner in the area wanted an historic overlay or UDO. This is no disparagement to the people that wanted that, but of the property owners in the Midtown area, not one advocated it. It doesn't mean you can't still have that. You can have a voluntary action for an historic overlay or for a UDO. But as it currently stands, it would be a voluntary action. It is not part of this bill. We don't think it should be part of the bill. Again, the 21st Councilmanic District has been one of the very hot spots in Nashville for the last 5 years. The number of rezonings, the development there have been staggering. Council Lady Langster has chaired a number of these meetings, and I think it's very clear to say that the studies show that by the year 2035, there'll be an additional 1 million people in the Nashville general area. This area 21 is one of the key spots because the infrastructure is already there. It's absolutely key for urban development. This is a bill for key urban intense development. It's transit oriented, it's development oriented, which is why the Planning Commission staff recommended it and was unanimously approved. I want to thank Council Lady Langster for all the time she spent on this bill, and I appreciate the council's indulgence in letting me come and make this presentation, despite the fact that nobody here is in opposition and a huge number of people are in support. Thank you for your courtesies and allowing me to make these comments. I ask you not to amend the bill, not to defer the bill either tonight or on third reading 2 weeks from now. It's a critical component for the city's growth. Thank you for your courtesies.
Thank you.
Councilperson, my name is Tom Grooms. I live at 2605 Barton Avenue in the 18th District. I certainly don't rise to oppose this, but I do rise to urge an urban design overlay as some of the council persons wish. There are a lot of factors that go into the development of an area. Our area and the area where the urban design overlay would be effective has many historic structures, and there are many there are many areas that should be preserved from destruction. We urge that there be an urban design overlay added to this bill to preserve historic structures, to have design that's consistent with the historic nature of the surrounding area, and where possible to have affordable housing. So certainly do not oppose it, but would urge that there be an urban design overlay added to the bill. Thank you.
I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I move for approval and would like to make some comments.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Initially, I want to thank Doug Sloan and Catherine Withers and all the members of the Planning Department for the time and effort they've given this rezoning. We've had a number of meetings, and after 5:30 at night, Catherine Withers and Doug Sloan, after working a full day at the council, at the Planning Commission, they arrived to talk with the constituents of the 21st District. All of the property under discussion right now is located in the 21st Councilmatic District. All of the comments I've had are from the property owners or either from the property owners' representative. Staff has been working with Midtown community for the past 2 years on the community plan. They have been working on the rezoning legislation for the past year with me. An urban design overlay district for Ellison Place and historic landmark overlays for various National Register eligible properties scattered throughout Midtown was proposed. A community meeting was held March 7, 2013 to discuss the proposal and seek community feedback and impact. The feedback from the affected property owners was 100% negative. Support for the historic preservation tool was heard from a small group of citywide historic preservation advocates. In Nashville, the government has never ever forced preservation on unwilling property owners. Without a single property owner in support of the proposal, the legislation could not advance. Then, a community meeting was held on April 4, 2013 to discuss the rezoning proposal that is before us tonight. The Midtown property owners in attendance were supportive of the vision for Midtown and for the proposed zoning district and their standards. The new development supported by this rezoning will bring much needed revitalization and activity back to Midtown and will benefit the future needs of Nashville residents. I fully support of the rezoning in District 21, and I ask you please to support me as I try hard to represent the neighbors, the constituents, the property owners who have all come to me and said, yes, they want this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holloman.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Let me say I plan to reserve most of my comments for the committee, but since some of the issues that I've been asked about from some of you were raised by Councilor Langster, I do want to just say briefly, I would echo what Mr. Groom said to the audience. I think after some of the debates we had in the last term about where is the right fit for growth and additional FAR, we all agree that we need to find ways to have more density in the urban core. And so that piece of this I very much support. However, I do have concerns that we are giving significant additional amounts of floor area ratio or height without having accompanying guidelines that we have seen in most other developments of this scale. This is a 160-acre rezoning with significant additional density. So I just want to say for the record that I do have a lot of concerns about the fact that we're not, as part of that density bonus, doing anything to preserve several dozen individually National Register eligible properties that are a significant piece of our city's fabric, and we're not doing anything to enhance the design guidelines beyond what's already there on the ground. And I think those are small asks for significant increase in density, and I hope that you'll listen to me and talk with me about that as this bill moves forward. I do respect Councilor Langster. This isn't her district. However, it is immediately adjacent to my district, and it is an important part of the city, and how that piece of the city develops affects my district, affects your district, because it does affect the whole city. It's probably the most growing piece of our city right now, and I think whether we do it in a thoughtful way or not is going to have an impact on how this city grows as a whole. Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2013-402, amends the Metro Zoning Code to rename various waste management land uses and modify the conditions applicable to construction, demolition, landfills. Councilmember Weiner.
I'd like to move to defer the bill indefinitely, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-403 amends the Metro Zoning Code pertaining to exterior lighting of buildings and structures. Councilmember Johnson.
Yes, I'd like to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Johnson.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-410 changes 1.57 acres from R6 to SP zoning for property located at 813 Watts Lane to permit light manufacturing and single-family residential uses. Councilmember Baker.
Open public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Baker.
Move approval.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-411 changes 0.7 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for properties located at 1801, 1805, and 1807 Sevier Street to permit up to 10 detached single-family dwelling units. Councilmember Westerholm.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Move to open public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Westerholm.
Thank you. I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-412 changes 36.25 acres from SP to RS80 zoning for property located at Hicks Road unnumbered east of Sawyer Brown Road. Councilmember Weiner.
I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Weiner.
I move for approval, please.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-413 changes 2.27 acres from OR 20 and IWD to CS zoning for property located at 12629 Old Hickory Boulevard. Councilmember Duvall.
Do we need committee reports, please?
No, we just need to open the public hearing.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Duvall.
Move for approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Dow, did you wish to be recognized?
Me?
No, your light came on. It was.
Oh, really? I didn't touch it.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-414 changes .36 acres from R6 and CES to SP zoning for properties located at 5100-5104 Illinois Avenue to permit a mixture of uses. Councilmember Baker.
Open public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Baker.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-415 changes .34 acres from RS5 to SP zoning for properties located at 1729 and 1731 Knowles Street to permit a maximum of 4 residential units. Councilmember Lancaster.
Move to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Lancaster.
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor, I'd like to move the bill and with some brief comments.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Lancaster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I would like to say that working with the closest neighborhood group, North Nashville Organization for Community Improvement, and working with Worthy and Worthy SP has really been a true work. They continue to be in progress up until this very moment. Dr. Worthy and the neighbors worked well together, and with that agreement, I would like to also submit to the record what the group agreed with Dr. Worthy with. 4 units to be constructed, 100% brick construction, and third, continuing high maintenance of the grounds, buildings, and adjoining alleyways. If the Sergeant at Arms will present that, and with that, I would like to say thank you to the neighborhood group that met 4 or 5 times to get to this point. And thank you, Dr. Worthy, for reducing your plans to meet the neighborhood needs. With that, I move for approval again.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-416 changes 4.11 acres from RS40 to MUL zoning for property located at Whites Creek Pike, unnumbered, south of Eatons Creek Road. Councilmember Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Matthews.
I'd like to move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-417 changes 1.04 acres from R10 to SP zoning for properties located at 1701, 1705, and 1709 Glen Echo Road to permit up to 8 residential units. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-418 amends sections of the Metro Zoning Code by modifying which zoning district-specific automobile-related uses are permitted. Councilmember Hunt.
Madam President, I'll open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing none on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Hunt.
Move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-419 amends the Metro Code pertaining to bulk standards for single-family structures on lots containing less than the minimum required lot area and by adding a reference table. Councilmember Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Claiborne.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at our consent agenda. I will read the ones that are on the consent agenda, and you can tell me if any need to be pulled. The ones that are not on our consent agenda are 522, 670, 672, 678, and 665. Those are not on the consent agenda. The first one on the consent agenda is 671, approves a contract with Donald W. Jones for consulting services to the council on an as-needed basis. 673 approves a Fourth Amendment to a grant with the Southeast Energy Efficiency Alliance to the Mayor's Office of Environment and Sustainability to increase residential energy efficiencies, building retrofits to homeowners and community outreach program. 674 approves the fee schedule for the issuance of commercial solicitation permits and identification badges. 675 approves a memorandum of understanding between the Metro Agricultural Extension Board and the University of Tennessee. 676 approves an annual grant from the State Department of Health to the Metro Board of Health to enhance the health and well-being of women, infants, and families. 677 approves the Seventh Amendment to a grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to the Metro Board of Health for collection of data on ambient air concentrations of fine particulate matter in Davidson County. 679 approves an affiliation agreement between the Metro Board of Health and Vanderbilt University to participate in a clinical instruction program for nursing students. 680 approves an amendment to an interlocal agreement between the Mayor's Office of Emergency Management and the City of Hendersonville for the purchase of equipment in accordance with the fiscal year 2010 Port Security Grant Program. 681 appropriates $6,175,500 from the General Fund Reserve to fund 7 Metro departments for miscellaneous new and replacement vehicles, equipment, supplies, and repair. 682 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claims of Charles Ivy against Metro government in the amount of $16,000. 683 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Michelle Wiggins against Metro government in the amount of $31,957. 684 approves the election of certain notaries public for Davidson County. 685 recognizes Scott Dillon, Project Director for Omni Hotel. 686 recognizes Captain George Russell on the occasion of his retirement. 687 recognizes In Full Motion. 688 approves a sister city relationship with Tamworth, NSW, Australia, and authorizes the mayor to execute a sister city charter. 689 honors the 10th anniversary of the sister city partnership between Nashville, Tennessee, and Magdeburg, Germany. 690 recognizes the finalists of the 7th Annual Nashville Beautification Art Contest, and 691 recognizes May as Foster Care Month in Nashville in recognition of National Foster Care Month. Do any of these need to be pulled? Seeing none, I will need committee reports for the ones on our consent agenda. Councilmember Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. On 671, 673, 674, 675, 676, 677, 680, 681, 682, and 683, Budget and Finance voted to approve, 13 for, 0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Weiner.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. On 676, 677, and 679, Health Hospitals and Social Services voted 5-0 to approve.
Thank you. Councilmember Bennett.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. 680 was approved by Public Safety, 640 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. 685 through 691 were all approved by rules, 7-4-0 against, and I'd like to move approval of the consent agenda.
And 684.
684 was also approved,
Okay.
6-4-0 against.
Thank you.
And I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 522 authorizes the Director of Public Property Administration to exercise options to purchase 2 adjacent parcels of property located at 3132 and 3142 Smith Springs Road for the benefit of the Board of Education. This resolution was deferred by Rule 23. RS 2013-670 establishes the certified tax rate for the metropolitan government. Councilmember Matthews. Hang on. Can you speak very loudly? He's deferring this to track with the budget. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2013-672 approves an agreement with the Convention Center Authority for heating and cooling services at the Music City Center. Councilmember Matthews. What is your committee report?
My committee report is to defer 13-4-0 against, and I'd like to move to defer.
The committee report was 13. The
whole screen's not working.
The whole screen's down. I don't know. We have a motion to approve the deferral motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 678 approves a contract between the Metro Board of Health and Progresso Community Center to provide classroom space for women, infants, and children recipients. Councilmember Weiner. I can hear you. It's you. We have a motion to approve the amendment. Is there a second? All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Opposed, no. The amendment passes. Councilmember Weiner. We have a motion and a second to approve as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We have a late filed resolution. Councilmember Bennett. It accepts a grant from the State Department of Finance and Administration to the Nashville Police Department for the Internet Crimes Against Children's Unit. What's the nature of the emergency?
It was a light felt resolution. It is a grant. Mr. Cooper, please explain.
The nature of the emergency is that the state did not notify the police department of the grant award until after the filing deadline, and the agreement has to be approved in order to get the funds before the term expires.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilmember Bennett.
Rules Committee voted 7-4-0 against.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are now at bills on introduction and first reading. And I'll tell you the ones that I have signaled to be pulled from for consideration is 447, Councilmember Weiner. 448, Councilmember Langster. 451, Councilmember Evans.
Garrett wants to approve 433, wants to pull that one, which you may have.
Okay, and we're pulling 433. Are there any others? Yeah. 443, Councilmember Garrett, an ordinance amending Section 102220 of the Metro Code to designate all fees collected for the disposal of excess garbage to be used for recycling. Count. Okay, we have a motion for the second reading to be the second meeting in June. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 447 changes 1.06 acres from R20 to CL zoning for a portion of properties located at 611 Old Hickory Boulevard. Councilmember Weiner. We have a motion to withdraw and a second. All in favor of withdrawal, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. 448 changes .49 acres from R6 to OR20 zoning for property located at 602 33rd Avenue North. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Mr. Cooper, is there an amendment to this?
It's a substitute, yes, ma'am.
I'd like to move the substitute.
We have a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Substitute passes. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Okay. We have some late filed. Okay. Councilmember Evans on 451 amends the Metro Code pertaining to professional service home business. Councilmember Evans.
I need to move a substitute, John Cooper,
Have it. It's a housekeeping amendment that adds the correct section number to the caption.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Substitute passes.
and I'd like to move the substitute on first and defer in second reading indefinitely.
We have a motion to approve as substituted and then to defer indefinitely. And we have a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We have some late filed. Councilmember Matthews amends the Metro Code pertaining to the current fee schedule for the adoption of dogs and impounded or boarded dogs. Councilmember Matthews.
This was to track with the budget. It's a late file to track with, so we need to suspend the rules. No, it's.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none. Councilmember Matthews.
No, just move approval on first reading and it'll automatically track.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilmember Holloman changes 3.12 acres from CS and RS 7.5 to SP zoning for properties located at 332 and 332 54th Avenue North and 323 53rd Avenue North to permit up to 40 residential units. Councilmember Holloman.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I move to suspend the rules for the purpose of hearing this on first. The nature of the emergency is that there was some issues to resolve with the community, and they agreed to defer one planning commission meeting, which means that I have to defer the rules to keep them on their same public hearing track.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, Councilmember Holloman. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve all other bills on first reading? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on second reading. First one is BL 2012-291, amends the definition of recycling facility to clarify that it does not include the conversion of material into a fuel product or asphalt and to prohibit such activity on construction, demolition, landfill property. Councilmember Stanley. I'm sorry, it's deferred by Rule 23. You're okay. 2013-408 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning alley number 1800 right-of-way and easement. Councilmember Moore. Councilmember Potts. Thank you. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think it's fine to approve 640 again.
Thank you. Councilmember Claiborne. Councilmember Moore. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013. Councilmember Tigert.
Please.
Try it.
Committee report, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Matthews.
Just when I get used to not using the mic. Budget and Finance voted to defer the track with budget, 13-4-0 against.
Thank you.
Move to defer.
Councilmember Turner. We have a motion and a second to defer. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-421 amends the Metro Code with regard to open burning. Councilmember Purdue.
Committee report, please.
Councilmember Bennett.
Long live the IT department. Public safety, at the request of the sponsor, deferred one meeting, 6-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Purdue.
I move to defer at one meeting.
Have a motion and a second for a one-meeting deferral. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-422 amends the Metro Code pertaining to the designated residential permit parking areas. Councilmember Moore. It would help if I turned it on. Try again.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Traffic and Parking, at the request of the sponsor, voted to defer one meeting, 6-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
I move to defer one meeting.
We have a motion and a second for a one-meeting deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-423 approves an agreement with the state for an exchange of the Old Bend West Library property for the Tennessee Preparatory School property. Councilmember Moore.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 12-0.
Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance deferred, 13-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
I move to defer one meeting.
Have a motion and a second for a one-meeting deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-424 approves a lease agreement between the Metro Nashville Public Schools and the state on behalf of the Nashville State Community College for use of space for the Academy at Hickory Hollow. Councilmember Dow.
Move for approval.
I need a couple of committee reports first.
I'm sorry.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 12-0.
Councilmember Bedney.
Thank you, Vice Chair. The Education Committee voted 7-4-0 against.
Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance voted to approve, 13-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Dow.
Thank you. I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-425 approves a license agreement to use Metro Properties for cross-access at the HHKW Properties LLC. Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 12-0.
Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval.
Do you have an amendment to move first?
I'd like to move I apologize. I'd like to move the amendment first.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The amendment passes.
I'd like to move the bill as amended, Vice Mayor.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-426 approves the abandonment of 930 feet of an existing 8-inch public sewer main and associated easements on properties located at 4201, 4203, and 4208 Johnstone Court and 3801, 3905 Hobbs Road. Councilmember Todd.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 9-4-0 against.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning approved 12-0.
Councilmember Todd.
Thank you. I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-427 approves the abandonment of a public utility and drainage easement on property located at 2708 Worthen Avenue. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve, 9-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic approved 12-0.
Thank you. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-428 approves the abandonment of 115 feet of an existing 8-inch public sewer main and easements and to accept 94 feet of an 8-inch public sewer main on property located at 1 Burton Hills Boulevard. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve, 9-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic approved 12-0.
Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-429 approves the abandonment of 85 feet of an existing 8-inch public sewer main and easements and to accept 72 feet of an 8-inch public sewer main on property located at 100 Foothill Court. Councilmember Tenpenny.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve, 9-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic approved 12-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Tenpenny.
I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-430 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of 28th Avenue North right-of-way. Councilmember Langster.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Potts.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Works voted to approve, 9-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning approved 12-0.
Councilmember Harrison.
Traffic and Parking approved 6-4 and 0 against and voted to re-refer back to Traffic and Parking Committee.
Thank you. Councilmember Langster.
Move to approve with referral back to Traffic and Parking.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is BL 2012-292, amends the Metro Code pertaining to recording studios as an accessory use in residential districts. Councilmember Barry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic Committee voted to approve 6-4 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Barry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to defer this bill indefinitely with a not-so-brief explanation.
We have a motion and a second.
I would like to thank all the sponsors who helped with this bill, and I would really like to take a moment to thank all of you council members who took the time to read through all the emails that came through your inbox. I really appreciate it. This has been a really complicated process getting to this point because the regulation of home-based businesses of any kind and recording studios in particular are not a simple matter. We know there are thousands of these home-based businesses in our city, and most people don't understand how these businesses are regulated. One common misperception is that home-based businesses are currently unregulated. In fact, they are most definitely regulated to the point that many, almost all, probably operate outside of the law. The goal of this bill was to start to remedy that, to take one important category of this business, recording studios, and make them legal, and make them subject to significant restrictions to address the very real concerns of neighborhoods about commercial activity in their midst. One council member last night said, why don't we just pretend they don't exist? Well, that's certainly one way to govern, but it's not a good way, especially in a situation where, one, we do know they exist, and we already regulate them, but we just do it poorly. Let's face it, pretending they don't exist is just another way of saying, let's make sure that musicians with home studios continue to operate illegally. And is that what we have in mind when we try to promote Nashville as Music City? There are two issues I want to address. The first, some have said, why regulate only home recording studios? Why not a comprehensive bill that addresses all home-based businesses? Well, many on this council probably remember that we tried this without success a few years ago. And having heard from many in the music industry who are still concerned about the current state of things and who want to operate legally, I decided to try to solve this problem for this one industry and this professional community that is so important to the civic fabric of our city, our musicians. It's not unusual to regulate narrowly a particular industry or a business segment that has unique needs and interests. And this is the case where the perfect ought not be the enemy of the good. This bill, after a lot of council member and constituent feedback, balances musicians' interests with neighborhood concerns. And if there is a council colleague who specifically wants to amend a bill to have all home-based businesses, well, that is certainly something that this council can bring forward and discuss. Second, this bill looks quite different today than it was when we started because of a lot of the hard work of the council members who took the time to actually help make this better. I want to especially thank Council Member Allen, who spent a lot of time and energy on this. And I also appreciate Council Member Claiborne, who even though he was against it, he was still willing to work with me in a transparent way. There are many other council members who reached out to their constituents and neighborhood associations to improve this bill. And we made really meaningful measurements in improvement on their input. The result is a bill that makes music studios, which exist all across Nashville and in every council district, more accountable to their neighbors. It induces them to get a business license, to obey rules about noise and traffic and parking, and to risk losing their license if they're bad actors. What I don't want to get lost in all of this is that musicians want to be good neighbors. They are more than willing to balance off their needs with neighborhood needs as we pursue this. They just want to be legal. So here we are. The number of council members who have signaled an inclination to support this bill tonight is sufficient for passage. But I believe that a measure like this, balancing neighborhood concerns with business interests and the city's music-oriented DNA, should be enacted by a large margin, not a narrow one. Neighborhoods are rightly concerned about the effects of home-based businesses on neighborhood quality, and musicians are rightly concerned under their current rules that the kind of home studio activity that is common throughout this city is currently illegal. I'm deferring this bill because I'm not yet satisfied that the level of support on both sides of this equation are where we need to be. And by the way, equation is the right metaphor here. This is a city of great neighborhoods. And it's also a city loaded with great musicians. We don't have to choose one of these over the other, but we do have to legislate thoughtfully and carefully to get it right. And with that, Vice Mayor, I thank you, and I renew my motion to defer indefinitely.
All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Indefinite deferral passes. Next is 2013-370, makes provisions to 71 acres of the Salem Town Neighborhood Conservation Overlay District for properties located along 3rd Avenue North, 4th Avenue North, 5th Avenue North, 6th Avenue North, 7th Avenue North, Buchanan Street, Coffee Street, Garfield Street, and Hume Street. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning Zoning Historic Committee voted to approve this bill on March the 19th by a vote of 9-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to move the substitute bill.
We have a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Substitute passes. Councilmember Gilmore.
Yes, I would like for the Planning Department just to read the new substitute bill, please. If you could read the boundaries.
The boundaries. The boundaries of the substitute are 4th Avenue North and 5th Avenue North between Garfield and I-65.
All right, thank you so much. I would like to move the bill as substituted with a brief explanation.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you. We have had numerous meetings about the Salem Town overlay. We've had about 2 years worth of meetings. I would like to thank the Historical Commission for their time. They put a lot of effort in that. Tim Walker and Robin Ziegler, as well as the president of the Neighborhood Salem Town Association, Freddie O'Connell, and just all the constituents. At the request of the constituents, we had 2 additional meetings after the March 15th one. There was one held at Morgan Park on March the 25th, and then there was another one held on April the 9th, which I held personally at Salem Town Church. There were over 40 people in attendance at this meeting, and I feel like it was a very productive meeting. We had Robin Ziegler to explain if there were any questions as it related to the historical conservation overlay, what it does, and then at that point, we had neighbors to express their concerns if they had any. And at the close of the meeting, I shared that we would follow up and we'd actually poll each one of the neighbors that signed the petition. Now, I had Roseanne Hayes and Elise Waller to personally call each one of the constituents. And after that, it came out that the majority were in support for the Salem Town overlay. I did not call personally myself because I didn't want the data to be messed with. So with that, I renew my motion to move the substituted bill.
We have a motion and a second on the bill as substituted. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next is 2013-404, designates Music Valley Drive between Rudy Circle and Pennington Bend Road as Frank Rudy Memorial Road. Councilmember Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move for approval. Oh, I need a committee report.
No?
No, I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-405 approves a sublease agreement between Metro Government and the STEM Preparatory Academy for the use of a portion of the Tennessee Preparatory School campus. Councilmember Moore.
All committee reports are in. I move for approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-406 approves a lease agreement between the Metro Board of Parks and Recreation and the Metro Development and Housing Agency for a portion of the bridge building. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-407 authorizes the Director of Public Property Administration to accept the donation of 25.5 acres of property from CRLP Bellevue LLC and Colonial Properties, Inc. to be used as part of the park system. Councilmember Todd.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-409 abandons approximately 1,320 feet of an 8-inch sewer main and the associated public utility easement on property located at 2014 Bernard Circle. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is the memorializing resolution, RS 2013-665, establishes a residential caucus to actively address municipal issues of the resident citizens of Metro Nashville. Councilmember Stanley.
Thank you, Ms. Vice Mayor. I'd like a committee report, please.
Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Rules Committee voted to indefinitely defer, 7-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Stanley.
I move for indefinite deferral with a couple of comments.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Stanley.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've agreed to indefinitely defer this bill, but this residential caucus that would be established would not restrict this caucus to gender, race, financial status. It would allow every member of this council to be on this caucus. What's more, it would provide a positive influence on public policy, municipal policy, throughout Metro Nashville. We have departments throughout Metro Nashville that are continually feel obligated first and foremost to the administration. They don't care anything about the council. And when a councilman or a council lady goes to these different departments and asks for their assistance, they will turn their backs on these council. Now, I have experience with a number of different departments who have turned their backs on me. I feel that as one council, we are elected by the resident citizens of this city. These departments provide services to the resident citizens of this city. We have an obligation, first and foremost, to listen to these people and to address these different departments and what we are needing. We have substandard infrastructure all throughout Davidson County. That can be associated with water department, with public works, with planning. Substandard infrastructure is terrible. It really makes Metro Nashville makes us not look like an urban county to begin with. But I will defer this. Now, I will say that I have spoken to the vice mayor. I want to have a meeting with her. And I want to invite as many council members to this meeting with the vice mayor as possible, because the vice mayor is president of this council. I appreciate her position. I think that she can have a vital impact, vital input in developing a residential caucus that would meet no more than 4 times a year, but would have every district council member tell about any specific items or issues within these districts. The vast majority of these 35 council districts are residential in nature. I'll give you an example. District 14 that I represent, the developed landscape is 91% residential. There is some commercial on Lebanon Pike, Stewart's Ferry Pike, and that's it. I have an obligation, first and foremost, to the people that put me in office. I want the mayor to understand that this Metro Council, we are the legislative body of this city. We have an obligation, first and foremost, to the citizens of this city. I want to cooperate with the mayor. I want the mayor to cooperate with me. I want the department heads to cooperate with me. I want the department heads to cooperate with everybody on this council, because you represent the resident citizens of this city. So with that, I'll move deferral, indefinite deferral. But I just want to say one last time that this residential caucus can provide the representation that was desired by the citizens of Metro Nashville, of Davidson County and the city of Nashville back in 1958 when they defeated the first charter referendum. They defeated it because it only was going to reduce the size of the Metropolitan Council to 21 members. That was it. But then when the charter board got together, they raised the number of council members to 40. And on June 28th, 1962, the Metropolitan Charter, the second Metropolitan Charter, was approved. With that, I appreciate it.
I promise, Vice Mayor, I'll be brief. I thank Councilman Stanley for his years of service to our community. He's a very smart and intelligent individual. However, though, I have to disagree with him on the services from our Public Works Department and our Water Department. With the resources they're given, they work miracles, and those men and women in those departments work very hard. And I respectfully disagree with his opinion. However, I'm saddened that he feels that way, and I yield the rest of my time to the chair.
All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye.